Hey y'all, welcome back to Rewatch. I'm your host Tamaji, and every week I'm watching your favorite shows. We are on week 2 of my new self-proclaimed favorite show, Insecure. And I know, I say this all the time, but season 2 was actually better than season 1. There was some amazing character developments all over, so let's just dive in, and of course there will be spoilers. Also, this episode is pretty explicit, so don't listen to it around kids, the grandparents, or uber saved people, because, they will hate it. So, the season opens a few months after the end of season 1. All of the characters are in pretty much a completely different place, mentally that is. Issa and Lawrence are still broken up, and Issa has decided to start dating. Old girl gets on the apps, and like most of us, are having a terrible time. All the men she goes out to date are terrible, horrible, no good, nothing dogs, and she is just miserable. And our girl Molly is in therapy, which is much needed, obviously, because we remember how last year she wasn't doing so well. She's finally landed a therapist that fits her better. What's the saying? Sometimes you gotta break a few eggs or whatever. She went through a few of them because Molly has a colorful mouth and she likes to say nigga, and her white male therapist wasn't fitting the vibe, and so now she's found a black woman who she feels like she can relate to more. It's still hard for her to open up in the beginning, which I'm sure is completely normal. Now, if you remember how we last saw Lawrence, he decided to leave Issa and hook up with the banker girl who was trying to get with him during season 1. Well, he's still with her, but let's just say they're not really on the same page. And by that I mean she wants a relationship with him, and he's obviously not ready for it. He's literally kind of a partial hobosexual, and if you don't know what that means, it basically is a person who's pretty much homeless but get with people to have a place to stay. Now, I say partially because our boy stays on an air mattress at his buddy's house, and when the weekend comes, he's over at Tasha's house. So let's just say that Lawrence isn't really that great of a guy this season, and this is just some stuff that happens in the opener. Also in the opener, there was something that made my jaw hit the floor. I think I literally screamed, actually. So basically, Issa hasn't seen Lawrence, but she wants him to know that she's, thriving, a little X-flex. So she throws a little wine night kickback, but before that, she invites him to come over to get some really important mail. But the entire thing backfires on her. And I mean that literal, an actual freaking fire happens, dudes. So anyway, the wine night is going so boring. So she invites a few more people, and somehow the kickback turns into a rager. The bass is bumping, people are smoking, and things are just happening. And then boom, fire. And not a tiny little thing either. Some idiot catches the trash on fire. Issa's walls get scorched, and it's a whole ordeal. And guess what? Lawrence didn't even show up to get his mail, so this whole party was pointless. The next morning, she wakes up to the aftermath, and the place is trash. There's crap all over the floor, and the place is in shambles. And just as she's about to straighten up, a knock on the door happens, and it's Lawrence. He comes in to get his important mail, and they exchange pleasantries, and the next thing you know, the two are on the couch, and some drawers are on the floor. This is the part I was hollering at, because this was some of the most awkward, lame, boring, trash TV sex I've ever seen, and I've watched over 18,000 episodes of TV, so I'm very qualified to judge. I would call old boy a 2-pump chump, but he got at least 7 in there, but he was done in 16 seconds. And no kissing or nothing. And y'all know how I feel about kissing during sexy times with Smash Buddies. So they high-key passed my test for that one, though. So when the deed was done, he just got up and left. And in my notes, I literally wrote, what does this mean, dude? And the episode was over. So much of the season was awkward moment after awkward moment. When at Issa's job, one of the vice principals she's working with is a black man, and he's being racist towards the Hispanic students at the school. And yes, I'm using racism because he is in a position of power over these children. PC lesson over, but essentially he sends only black students to Issa's program and actively excludes the Hispanic students. And the most awkward part of that is that she just sits there and heard him say this and was like, as long as people are coming, which is incredibly awkward for the audience to watch, because we watched this character be an advocate for black and brown students in season 1, but now she just doesn't care all of a sudden. Y'all, some of Issa's cringy moments were almost Scott's Tots level, if you know, you know. She went on a date with a cute guy and then went home with him, and when he was trying to be all sexy, and she laughed at him and ruined the moment. Like, he's literally like rubbing and kissing all over her, and she's just laughing and giggling at him. Eventually, he just got so embarrassed that he just had to stop and leave, or I guess kick her out if they were at his house. I can't remember. Not relevant. Oh, and then she hooked up with her very young neighbor, and it wasn't really awkward for her, but it was definitely awkward for me because the guy she was hooking up with is the incredible Leon Thomas, aka Andre from one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows, Victorious. So during the whole scene, I'm just like, oh my God, Andre, over and over again. The one awkward moment that couldn't touch any of the other ones for me happened with Lawrence. It happens between Lawrence and some white girls he met at the grocery store. But before I gotta say that, I gotta say Tasha kicked him to the curb in the episode before that one because she invited him to her family's barbecue and he bailed on her after she introduced him to the family. Been there, sis. But anyway, so what leads to the grocery store girls and Lawrence? Well, Lawrence makes an illegal U-turn, and in this very intense scene, he gets pulled over by cops, and they essentially make him so nervous that he drops his card in the car. So when he goes to check out at the grocery store, he can't find his card because it's still in the car. So the girls behind him pay for his stuff, so they invite him over to party since he was going out anyway. They're chilling and making some odd comparisons to some other black guys, and then it gets weird. And then boom, all of a sudden we're in a close your eyes, mama. A threesome, and Lawrence is kind of into it, and the girls are just clearly fetishizing him because they only want to hook up with him because he's a black guy. And when he finishes with one of the girls, his recoil isn't what they're used to, so they basically kick him out and talk trash about him while he's still sitting there, literally going like, oh well, this guy, he could come back in like just seconds, he could blah, 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 just burning this guy's ego to ash. And when it's so embarrassing after they like kind of try to kick him out, he's like, no, I can do it, and like tries to get it back up, and they're just like, ew, and then they kick him out. It was so funny but awkward. Oh my God, I could barely keep my eyes on the screen. It was so wild. All right, now y'all, let's talk about what's going on with Molly this season. So the season starts off with her doing well and being in therapy and finding herself and all that jazz, but while she's finding herself, she finds her childhood friend Dro. And of course, there's a catch because there always is a catch. Dro is married, but apparently in an open relationship, and he wants to start something with this old BFF Molly. Obviously, she's not into it at first, and y'all want to know what changes her mind. This girl finds out during her parents' vow renewal that her dad cheated on her mom. She storms out, leaving her date Sterling K. Brown, by the way, and Dro takes her home, and she decides that that's the perfect moment to hook up with him for the first time. Like, girl, what? I ain't even gonna lie, they do have great chemistry. Like, when he first came on the screen, I was liking the vibes. So shout out to the casting director for that one, and the actors too, of course. So with all of those storylines going on, I don't think I can honestly choose a best or worst character for this season because everyone is pretty much on an even playing field. Everyone did and said horrible things, and at the same time, none of them, in my opinion, did anything overwhelmingly amazing or redemptive. Like, I could go in on Issa for the racism stuff, but she ended up like opening her eyes and learning her lesson and tried to make up for it after she's called out on it. Choosing a favorite episode was incredibly difficult because the bottom 3 episodes were so freaking funny, dude. So I just have to talk about them all, especially because I feel like this episode is already on the shorter side. All right, let's get into episode 6 titled Hella Blows. And all the episodes this season start with Hella and then whatever follows that. Okay, so it's called Hella Blows, and you'll see why it's titled that by the end of the rundown. So from the top of the episode, Issa is just being a desperate Darcy. So she decides to slide down to her neighbor's house to see if she can get laid. But when she gets down there, Andre from Victorious is already entertaining a lady friend. So she awkwardly leaves after he tells her to call next time because, Molly feels like she's ruined her friendship with Dro by sleeping with him, but then proceeds to do it again. So clearly she was not that worried about it. Now Lawrence, since we've met him, has been talking about this app that he wants to get off the ground. So when he decides to finally pitch it at work, they passively congratulate him on it. But when this girl he works with tells him that they're clearly not interested and they kind of hated it, but when he goes to make sure she's wrong, they shoot him down gently. And he believes it's because they don't want to offend the only black guy in the office. And once I said that, it kind of opened my eyes because I think he's the only black employee in the office at all. And I think that makes me wonder if he was just like a minority hire, but he seemed to impress them in season 1. So it's kind of weird that they're alluding to that fact now. After Issa's advances are rejected by her Tinder date, she and her girlfriends go to a sexpo. And yes, that's expo with an S in front of it. It's basically Comic-Con, but for a sexy time. And then they talk about the Black Women Don't Go Down debate. I personally haven't heard this debate in a long time because I truly think it's a generational thing. And they kind of show me I was right. Most of them talked about how it was degrading and how they'd never. And Issa specifically says she doesn't want to because of those reasons. But Molly, our resident sexpert, gives the ladies some pointers. And then they go take a class on it at the expo. So now this leads to Issa and surprise, surprise, Daniel getting down, but mostly just Issa. She drinks her signature Jameson and champagne and gets down to business. And basically, it's her first time doing it, and our girl is doing a good job, so snaps for her. And then there's literally no way to clean this up. Daniel comes on her face. Yeah. And it's Issa's first time doing this. So she freaks out and starts screaming at him and cussing him out. And eventually she leaves. So this part to me, I thought she was blowing out of proportion personally because it looked like an accident to me. And he apologized. Like literally, he said, I'm gonna, and she moved, but not fast enough. And I'm sure you can figure out the title now. And that's literally how the episode ended. Now, episode 7, hella disrespectful, is exactly how pretty much everyone was feeling. So there's a party for Tiffany's husband, Derek, that everyone's invited to, including Lawrence. And speaking of, he's been seeing a coworker, and honestly, she's great. She's kind of perfect for him. She gets him in a lot of ways. But anyway, he decides to take her to the birthday dinner along with him because he just wants to make a brief appearance. But Lord, is he wrong. With this being bougie Tiffany's, she's planned a plated cocktail dinner party for Derek. And when he shows up, everyone has already mingled and is already seated in their assigned seats. Now, I just want to say, what a typical man to be this unprepared for an event like this. Like, I'm sure the invite said cocktail attire or arrive on time or it'll be a plated dinner or whatever because of how exclusive this was. And once again, being bougie Tiffany. They came in there with jeans and leather jackets on. Like, if that was my boyfriend, I'd be embarrassed. And I've definitely been in that situation. But usually it's the opposite. I'm a chronic overdresser for things like that if a man tells me about it. But when they get there, there is no room for his girl, obviously. So everyone is already seated and they have to awkwardly scoot their chairs over. So you get like all the chair sounds on the floor just moving over and over and over. It was just so awkward. Like her chair wasn't even tall enough to sit at the table normally. And then silverware started getting shuffled around and Issa is throwing shade and they storm out. And then they have some harsh words that I gotta let y'all hear for yourself because, oh my God, the disrespect that was exchanged was insane.
Hey, look, I want to explain. I wouldn't have brought a partner if I knew.
You're so full of shit.
What?
You couldn't wait to parade whoever the fuck in front of me and my friend.
I'm not parading anybody.
And then on some fuck shit, you block me?
Wow. Okay, yeah, I blocked you. Because I was tired of seeing pictures of the nigga you fucked while we were together.
I didn't post pictures.
Nigga, I don't give a fuck who posted the pictures. You still fucking that nigga?
Why do you even come here?
So you still fucking him. Who else did you fuck while we were together?
Are you serious right now?
I don't know what the fuck you was out here doing. Apparently.
Oh, what I'm doing?
Yeah.
What about what you're doing? Fucking me while you're with some bitch who works at your bank? And really, nigga, her?
Well, because being some fake-ass music producer's jump off is better? You know, I bet that nigga's a real fucking gentleman.
He's got way more going on than woo-woo. Speaking of, what's up with that? Because I ain't getting no woo-woos on my phone. Was it worth all that time I spent supporting your depressed ass?
Probably not as much time as you spent being a fucking hoe.
Wow, I can't believe I almost forgot this gym. Molly and Dro's wife are all at this party too. His wife knows about Molly and is cool with it, but they just don't speak on it like, you know, out in front of everybody. Then Molly and Dro somehow end up smashing in the bathroom and Molly instantly regrets it after she realized that all her life she's gonna be with him only behind closed doors. Let me jump back into the main story. After Lawrence and Issa fight, Issa gets home and finds a rent increase notice on her door. She storms inside and trashes the whole place out of anger. Literally just destroys her apartment like a boy named Kyle style, which makes sense since we heard those awful things that they said to each other, especially from somebody you love. So yeah, that would hurt. Now let's get into the season 2 finale because I loved it. It was called Hella Perspective. So I love the structure of this episode. The episode is split into 3 parts following 30 days with Lawrence, Molly, and Issa in that order. So the episode opens up at a race, which I was very confused at because we haven't seen any of the cast run until we see Lawrence jogging in the race with his coworkers. And in his story, we learned that he's made it official with his coworker Aparna that they were low-key thriving until somebody messed it up. It's obviously Lawrence. He starts to get incredibly jealous after he learned that his girlfriend hooked up with a guy at the office. Now, he was fine with it when he thought it was just a one-time thing, but they were pretty casual. But it's over now, and they're just friends, if you could really call them that. But Lawrence just can't get over it. He sees them communicating at work, so he's just so threatened by it. And then when he tells his boys about it to get some, other perspectives, they get in his head even more about the situation. And it blows up. And in just 30 days, their relationship is pretty much over. In Molly's 30 days, she decides to start fielding offers from other law offices since she found out that one of her male coworkers makes more money than she and they're pretty much equals. So she wants to get some decent offers on the table so she has something to negotiate with. She's also been working out of the Chicago office and she's made new friends there, including this guy named Quentin. So when he comes to town, she takes him out and she's not really into him and she thinks that he's into her, but they end up hooking up anyway, because actually he's a great guy. He's funny, he's smart, and he understands her. And then her job doesn't offer her more money. And she ends the episode back with Dro again. #toxic. Now, Issa's 30 days were interesting. We see from her point of view that her neighborhood is slowly going through gentrification with random fancy coffee shops and a neighborhood grocery store closing. And with all this, we can assume that this is the reason for the rent raise. Now she's become a victim of this gentrification herself because she can no longer afford to live in her own town. And on top of that, she can't really find anywhere else to live. So she decides to go live with her brother, which I didn't know she had till season 2. At work, she is screamed at for not addressing the issue with racist vice principal at the school, and she gets demoted. She has a yard sale to sell all of her belongings, that are in the apartment that she can't take with her because, her brother's house. She tells Lawrence to come over and get the rest of his things, including the couch that they bought together in season 1 while she's out. But when she gets back there for her final walkthrough to turn in her keys, she meets Lawrence, who waited for her. They haven't spoken since the party, so they do exchange some apologies. And then they tearfully express their love for each other. Then as soon as Lawrence is leaving, we get this incredible, beautiful sequence. Lawrence gets down on one knee and professes his love to Issa and asks her to marry him. And we see what their beautiful life would look like together. We see how they're happy and how they redecorate the apartment and how they get married and eventually start a family. And then Issa snaps out of it and Lawrence leaves, and so does she. And we see Issa walk up to the place that she's going to live, and she is at Daniel's house to stay with him. And the season ended right there with me screaming, because why is she at Daniel's house? I do not know. I guess we will find out how that goes in season 3. All right, y'all. That was season 2. I hope you liked it. I know it was short, but I feel like I didn't need to draw this one out as long. I don't know. It was clear and succinct, hopefully. If not, make the complaint in my comment section. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Make sure you are subscribed to all of the things. Make sure you go like the Facebook page, go like our Instagram page. We're at Rewatch Podcast pretty much on everything. We're the little orange icon. Go click on us. Go give a like. Go give a share. Sharing is so important because if this episode wasn't your favorite, it could be like your best friend's favorite. So just go for it. All right. Thanks, guys. Don't try to catch me. Bye.